Hello and welcome back to All About Community. Again, my name is Robert L. Harris, and when we went to break, I told you that I would have an architect here with me, Ron Jones. Ron Jones was recently appointed to the Oakland City Planning Commission. So, Ron Jones, welcome to All About Community. So, great pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Bob Harris. I appreciate the invitation.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your background. You know, I've known you for a long time, but want our viewers to get a sense of who you are. Where were you born and raised?
Born and raised in Philadelphia.
Well, the city of brotherly love
City of
and
brotherly
sisterly love.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And how did you end up here in Oakland?
I actually came to California, I think I was about 12 years old. My uncle had just completed his master's program at UC Berkeley. I came out to witness his graduation. And
witness his graduation, and you were just, you couldn't leave.
I was smitten. I
That's
decided
good.
then that it was either going to be some Ivy League program in East Coast or come to Cal.
Good. And you went to Cal, is that right?
I did. Studied architecture.
Why architecture?
Good question. I think that's actually a really good question, particularly for a person of color. Growing up in Philadelphia, an historic city, as you know, beautiful architecture.
It is.
Amazing spaces. The built environment is something that you fall in love with outside of the craziness that also surrounds Philadelphia socially. But it was hard to basically not fall in love with the architecture of Philadelphia.
Yeah, but it got to be a little bit more complicated than that. Who inspired you? I know that is the what, but was there a who inspired you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've always had a passion for art and artistic things.
Okay.
And so part of growing up in Philadelphia, having a community that advocated and supported that interest and that passion was always important. There was two particular instructors that I had, one in middle school and one in high school, that was the greatest influence because they basically really encouraged me to pursue it. And so I went to a technical high school, and the way our high school was structured, in your junior and senior year, part of your academic curriculum was workforce. So you basically worked in a design environment. And I had the benefit of my junior and senior year working for Bechtel. And so
Bechtel Corporation
Yes,
in
sir.
San Francisco.
Exactly.
All
Exactly.
right.
So I worked for them for two years, and worked on some fairly large projects. But at that point, I really knew that architecture was something I was interested in. Then it became a matter of where.
And when you graduated from Berkeley, what did you do at that particular time for architecture? Did you go immediately into architecture?
Yeah, I did. I was fortunate enough to find a niche. As you know, architecture is pretty broad. I'm a residential designer, and so I fortunately landed a position in Pleasanton when I first graduated for a residential design firm. And that basically really anchored my passion for residential architecture.
And since then, you have, I guess, become associated or one of the founders of somewhat of Hunt, Hale, and Jones. How did that all happen?
Yeah, Hunt, Hale, Jones Architects. We're located in San Francisco. The three partners, all three of us are alumni from UC Berkeley.
Oh, okay.
I'm the youngest of the three, but as classmates, we basically had always had an interest in. Interestingly enough, we ended up working together when we first graduated. And then,
But you weren't in the same classes at Berkeley, were you?
yeah, we were.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So one of my partners is 1 year my senior, the other's 2 years my senior, and so but the one that was 1 year as my 1 year my senior, we actually were in the same graduating class. But I think that relationship allowed us 5 or 10 years later after we had graduated and everybody had expressed an interest in starting a firm that basically came back together and started Hunt, Hale, Jones Architects.
Well, I remember, I think it was 1988 or 89 or somewhere. At that particular time, I needed some work done at my home, and you came in, and I was just blown away with the architecture that you suggested.
I appreciate that.
I think the first one was a deck.
First one was a deck, and then we did an addition, then we did a refacing of the house. And truth be told, you were actually my first client. My first African-American client.
Oh, great.
Yeah, you were. And there hasn't been very many since you, quite honestly. And after 29 years, I probably have had maybe a dozen African-American clients in the 29 years we've been in business. So our firm hasn't necessarily grown because of that community, but because of a broader community.
Yeah, well, what I can say is that certainly Ron Jones did an outstanding job. If you want to see, you can come by my house and take a look at my deck. It's on Google Maps.
Right, exactly.
Everything's on Google Maps. Let me, when you were in college, you joined a fraternity, is that right?
I did. I joined. I was one of the younger members of the fraternity. I joined Kappa Alpha Psi as a 17-year-old, quite honestly, and it was a pivotal point in my life because when I came to Berkeley, my father had passed when I was fairly young, and about a month after I came to Berkeley, my mother passed, and so it was really the fraternity that basically provided that community for me in the absence of my parents. But it made a huge difference in my life, and some of the alumni members that I met, including yours truly, were significantly important in my development.
And in firm disclosure, I am also a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, and you've heard this on my program, our program here before. We're going to have to go to break, so don't touch that remote. We will be right back. All about community. And again, my name is Robert L. Harris. I am your host, and my guest is Ron Jones. Ron is a new planning commissioner right here in the city of Oakland. We will be right back.